welcome to your On TV News Desk. Here in the studio this afternoon, I have Malcolm White, the Deputy CAO and City Clerk at the City of Sault Ste. Marie. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
How's it going today?
Good.
Good? Busy?
Yes, almost busy.
Yes, we have a few things to talk about. So we just had, just over a month, not even a month ago yet.
Not quite.
Our municipal elections. And now we're kind of in a period where the old council is still technically our council, but the new council is getting orientated. Can you tell us a little bit about what that process is like?
Sure, it is a long transition period. Up until a couple of elections ago, voting day was in November.
Right.
It's been moved back, and actually the term for this council will start on December 1st, but end on November 15th in 2022. And the new council then will start November 16th instead of December 1st. So it's there has been recognition that with the change in voting day, it led to perhaps too long a transition period.
Yeah, because it must be kind of weird for councillors that are going out.
It is, because no one really understands out in the public that that change hasn't taken place yet. They're sometimes unsure of who to call. But the new council, their term doesn't start until December 1st, and the inaugural meeting will be held December 3rd.
Now, what can councillors, what are councillors, okay, if I could talk. The new council that's coming in, what are they doing right now? What can they expect in terms of orientation over the next couple of weeks?
Certainly, we're setting up an orientation session for them. We have 5 new councillors.
Right.
And that'll be set up near the end of next week. And basically that just gives them an introduction. We try and introduce them to all our senior management.
Right.
Give them an appreciation for the different functions that are under each person, and sometimes they're not always aware of everything the city does or all our services. We give them a bit of background, of course, according to the meetings, our procedure bylaw. We give them a bit of information on the Code of Conduct, the Municipal Freedom of Information Act, Conflict of Interest Act. We don't try and overwhelm them with the information. That's right, and really over the next 6 months they're going to be going out to different areas of the city, getting a true appreciation of all the operations. We just try and give them enough to hit the ground running and to know where to access more information if they need it. And
when are they assigned different board and committee duties?
Yeah, that comes up very early in the term. In December, we'll certainly be talking about it a bit at orientation.
Right.
There's a lot of citizen appointments to boards and committees that will occur too. So people will be putting out a media release shortly, inviting people to apply. They will make those appointments formally in the first meeting in January.
Okay, so it all happens pretty
very quickly. Yeah.
And what are the biggest challenges in your experience in working with the city that you've seen councillors face when they come into a new into the new council in that transition period? The biggest learning curve, maybe. Certainly,
there's a lot of things to get used to as far as just the sheer scope of our operations. Certainly finding out sometimes that the city has maybe less control over something than they thought they might.
Right.
There's a lot of outside boards and committees, such as police services that are governed by a police services board, but kind of there's an assumption often that council has more control over police operations than they actually do.
Right. I think that, I mean, even in covering the municipal elections, that was something I always thought too, that it's a little bit easier to say what you think council and city staff should be doing when you're not an incumbent or when you're a newcomer, right? But after you get your feet wet with it and say, oh wow, maybe this is why this takes so long. And
that's right, and often there's a need to assimilate a whole lot of information about something that you didn't think was quite as complex as it was when you were running. There's also one of the biggest things for an individual councillor to get used to. One, they're going to be working with a ward mate. That ward mate was chosen by the voters, and So like it or lump it, that's
be,
your team for the
you
ward.
might be two newbies, or you might be
That's right.
or it might be someone you pitted against a little bit in
That's
the
right, because
campaign
you've been
period.
running against each other.
Right.
One of the biggest things for new councillors to get used to is that the authority of council is exercised as a group,
Right.
not individually. So an individual member of council, even the mayor, doesn't have a lot of statutory authority to do anything.
Right.
The authority that council does exercise comes as a group and comes by a majority vote.
It's much like how a governing board of directors operates.
That's right.
In that sense. They have authority as a collective, not as individuals.
Exactly.
So now we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about the voter turnout this year, and what we can expect going forward for future votes in terms of technology. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with Malcolm White after this break. Welcome back to your On TV News Desk. Here still with Malcolm White from the City of Sault Ste. Marie. Now, we talked a bit about the transitionary period between the old council and the new council. Now, I want to talk a little bit about our voting statistics in Sault Ste. Marie. This year, there was 55,261 eligible voters, and 22,269 people actually voted, so 40.3%, versus in 2014, the percentage of voters was 42.42%. What do you make of that? You have a lot of experience in working for the city. What do you think about this kind of trend?
It's certainly been a trend. It's been decreasing for a number of elections now. I really was hoping for an increase this time.
Yeah.
We had a beautiful day weather-wise, and so I thought that certainly there's an opportunity for people to get out. We had a lot of turnout at our advance votes,
right.
So we felt maybe we might be able to get higher than 42% this time.
Right.
Unfortunately, we didn't, and we did have some new things, new ways of voting this year that we were trying to promote and did have a lot of success with. We had voting at home for people who were unable to get out of their home to go and vote. They could cast the ballot themselves, not necessarily use a proxy voter.
Right.
So each election we do try and make things more accessible. One of the challenges may have been certainly it's getting more difficult to find voting locations that meet our needs.
That's what you've heard?
There's, as we have gone through a period of time where we have schools closing, we have churches closing, and even community halls. We used to use the Croatian Hall, for instance, as a major voting center.
Right.
And we hear this from the provincial and federal levels there, that it's getting more difficult to find enough facilities that are distributed evenly across the city and meet all accessibility requirements.
Yeah, that's something I never considered before, but that would play a huge role, especially for someone who does have accessibility issues or doesn't drive. It can be challenging.
And we do know in Sault Ste. Marie, our population does skew a little more to an aging population side, more so than the provincial average.
Right.
And sometimes there's more barriers for that demographic to be able to physically get out and vote.
Now, we talked a little bit before we started the interview on camera about how, some cities have gone digital with voting.
Mm-hmm.
That's not something that Sault Ste. Marie's done, but we have implemented more technology in our processes. Like you were saying, you could check if you're on the voters list online, you can make those changes, you can check your ward boundaries, all of that. Where do you see the future moving towards for the next election? I know it's 4 years away, but...
Certainly we'll have to see where technology is bringing us 4 years from now, but I would certainly think that we have more technology elements in the voting. We may be doing voting online. Whether we're doing it entirely online, we'll have to see. And there are other technological improvements, both in issuing of ballots and counting of ballots. We could do by tabulator rather than a manual count. So we will certainly be reviewing that in depth, because we'll have to make a decision within 2 years of which way we'll need to go.
So citizens can expect to see a decision on that within the next couple of years. The last thing I want to talk to you about today, now moving forward to the future here, the city recently announced that it's now open for people to nominate for the Medal of Merit.
Yes.
This is awarded to individuals or groups who have achieved exceptional meritorious honors in athletics, cultural, or academic fields who make extraordinary contributions to our community. That just sounds lovely. So tell us a little bit, how can people nominate or check this out to see if they want to nominate someone?
Certainly, probably the best avenue is to go on our website, and the entire description of the Medal of Merit, what it's for, and the nomination package are all there. Certainly, once people have reviewed that, they can contact our office and we can give them more guidance.
And do you know off the top of your head when the deadline is?
The deadline, the standard deadline is December 1st.
Right.
That falls on a Saturday this year, so
Okay.
we will receive things until the end of the business day on December 3rd.
So you get a little bonus there.
That's right.
All right, well, thank you so much, Malcolm, for coming in, for talking about this transitionary period, the voter turnout, and of course, the Medal of Merit. Appreciate your time. I know you're busy. And we'll be back with more news coming up on TV after this. Stay tuned.